presentation is on religion and faith in Colombian culture, more specifically Catholicism in Colombian culture. And so my presentation hinges on 4 key elements. So the importance of religion in Colombian culture, religious values, religious irony and blind faith, and then finally religious imagery. So to begin with the importance of religion, just at the time of the book's writing, Catholicism was the official religion of Colombia, with over 90% of the people practicing it across the country. So the fact that it was widely practiced means that the community was really tight-knit, and that tight-knit. It was a tight-knit community. Whatever. Okay. And Catholicism was deeply ingrained in Colombian culture. So the heavy reliance on faith and religion is evident in the way that the community views certain religious figures as authority figures. More specifically, Father Amador as well as the bishop. So in the case of the bishop, he was so important that even though he never steps off the boat, the village goes through days of preparation to greet him with certain gifts, including crates of roosters for his coxcomb soup. And it's viewed,
Freudian slips in this presentation.
and it's viewed as an event that brings the community together, and is to be celebrated in a similar fashion to Angela and Bayardo's wedding the day before. He is so important that Father Amador uses him as an excuse as why he didn't try to stop Santiago's death. He says that you have to understand, he told me, that the bishop was coming that day. And also in the case of Father Amador, he is trusted with the autopsy, and he holds power that is comparable to the mayor. And now the religious, given the prevalence of Catholicism in the culture, there are many religious values that are upheld. Specifically, the one where a woman's virginity must be preserved until marriage, and it's kind of closely related to honor, and which is closely related to machismo. I feel like they're all together. And so, in the book, they say that honor is love. That's a good quote. Honor is love. And then the Vicario twins must uphold these values of Catholicism, which includes preserving their sister's virginity or preserving their sister's honor. By killing Santiago, and we can tell that given the community's given the fact that the community is so invested in Catholicism and so based in Catholicism, their role is mainly just societal pressure. They don't really want to kill Santiago. They just kind of want to give the impression that that is their duty. Can we talk about this already? And then Angela's virginity is seen as something precious. It's invaluable to her well-being, which aligns itself with the values of Catholicism. Specifically, when before her wedding, after her proposal, her parents accompany her everywhere, and they don't let her go out alone for fear that she. Yeah. And then it's ironic, considering that to preserve Catholicism's values of preserving a woman's virginity, they're breaking Catholicism's values of killing someone. So there's that irony, and in that, in the vein of religious irony and blind faith, we can tell that it's so repetitive and it's so deeply ingrained in the community that it basically just becomes a meticulous ritual. So, for example, the bishop on the boat, he says that it was a fleeting illusion. The bishop began to make the sign of the cross in the air opposite the crowd on the pier, and he kept on doing it mechanically afterwards without malice or inspiration until the boat was lost from view, and all that remained was the uproar of the roosters. So it kind of gives a sense that what the bishop is doing is inauthentic, and the Catholicism that they're trying to uphold is inauthentic in and of itself. And also, there's this idea of the people of the village use religion for their own personal gains. It's kind of there, it's lesser. But certain characters like Victoria Guzman, she says that she was trying to uphold Angela's honor, but by not telling Santiago of the Vicario twins plot. But Divina Flor says to the narrator that, nevertheless, Divina Flor confessed to me on a later visit after her mother had died that the later hadn't said anything to Santiago Nazar because in the depths of her heart she wanted them to kill him. So she uses the community's vision of honor for her own personal gains because she didn't like Santiago. And then finally, the book is filled with religious imagery. It starts even at the beginning of the book when he says that Santiago Nassar put on a shirt and pants of white linen. So there's this comparison between Santiago Nassar and Jesus Christ, because in the Bible, they say Joseph wrapped the body, wrapped it in a clean linen cloth, and it leads the reader to believe that he was innocent. And to stretch this comparison, we can say that Santiago kind of died for the sins of the community, and more specifically, he died for Angela's sins of losing her virginity. So he died to forgive Angela of her sinful behavior and allow her to live her life regardless of this sin. And finally, there's a lot of religious imagery in the way that Santiago died. It parallels Jesus' death in a certain way. So Father Amador says he had a deep stab in his right hand. It looked like a stigma of a crucified Christ. And then also the knife went through the palm of his right hand and then sank into the side up to the hilt. In the Bible, John 19:34, he says, instead one of the soldiers pierced Jesus' side with a spear, bringing a sudden flow of blood and water. And then in John 20:27, they say, Jesus said, reach out and touch me, see the punctures in my hands, reach out your hand and put it to my side, leave behind your faithfulness and believe. So there is this comparison between Santiago Nassar and Jesus, right? And then my question is, to what extent would the story's plot change if religion was not so heavily ingrained in Colombian culture? To what extent would the story's plot change if religion was not so heavily ingrained in Colombian culture?
One doesn't come with the other.
No one?
If one doesn't come without the other.
Yes.
One doesn't come without the other. You can't really separate them because like the Colombian culture is like, guys, I don't know, someone presentation said 90% based on
90% of people
you
got
can't
it.
Well,
separate.
without religion,
Raise your hand.